Amnesty Office holds parley with media executives over its reintegration drive. Stakeholders call for timely release of allocated fund for Amnesty program. Plus, tidbits, fact file, and more. A lovely day to you out there, and welcome to another week of Reintegration 30,000, a series on the activities of the Presidential Amnesty Program for former armed agitators in the Niger Delta. I am Stella Inameti, and in the last 10 weeks, this program has in many ways enlightened the viewer on the mandate and achievements of the Amnesty Program. It has highlighted the reformation in the economic and social spheres in the Niger Delta, but more particularly in human capital development in the region. Our objective has been to show you first-hand accounts of the many changing stories of those participating in the program, while also showcasing the positive ripple effects of the Presidential Amnesty Program. While we are on the issue of reformation, let's bring you our regular first segment, A Changed Story. Our changed story for this week is someone who may have been naive at the time he became involved in the Niger Delta armed struggle, but went on to become an active member of the agitation. Upon the declaration of amnesty, he embraced the initiative and has since then passionately involved himself in the program. He emerged from the creeks to plying his trade as a professional footballer. Let's bring you a changed story.
My name is Philip Solomon. I'm from Bomodi Local Government, Okoloba Community, precisely from Delta State, Nigeria. I was born in the city of Maiduguri, precisely the year 1994. And I grew up there, and there was war there precisely, and in Maiduguri city, 2008, February 8th. So because of that war, my mom was afraid, so she relocated us back to the Delta. As a cook, she has a restaurant where she is in Bayelsa. We got ex-militants, so they come there every time to feed. They buy food from her. Sometimes they buy credit when they have money to come and pay. So from there, I work under my mom, I serve her. So from there, I'm the one serving everybody. So from there, I got involved. So I began to take food from our restaurant to their camp. So from there, I became the boy of General Postgala. Actually, the life there was rough. It was really rough because nobody is friendly. Every day in the river, outside the river, you have to be alert as a soldier in that camp because war can break up at any time. The army will just attack at any time. So as a good soldier in that camp, you have to be alert, but the life there is risk because sometimes the person you saw just now, you can't see him again. Our list came out. Our general, Akwas Gala, he called us that the list is out. We have to prepare. So we went to camp on, I think, on the 11th of December 2011. They relocated the camp from Obubra to Lagos. So I went there. When we got there, they screened us. You have to remove your bush name and use your real name there. Then they will teach you about non-violence, authored by Martin Luther King, Jr. Teach you about the non-violence way of life, how to achieve freedom without violence, how to attack a matter in a peaceful way and get the end result in a very peaceful way. I went to Dubai, actually, for a gas turbine power plant. It's a power plant training. So I went there for it's a professional course actually. So it's all about power plant, how to convert heat energy into mechanical energy, into electrical energy. I play football from small. Even when I went for the training, I played a tournament there. I played a tournament called Ramadan tournament, and I was shortlisted among the best players. And I was the youngest in that tournament as of then. After that, I was training with a club, and the club advised me to start a meaningful life with my career, that the game I'm actually playing over there is a game that I will use to make life meaningful for myself and for my family and people around me. The club I'm going to in Sweden, the club that invited me actually, is located in Dijafors. And the club name is Dijafors, IFFC, meaning Idros Renin. And the name of the head coach is Mr. Patrick Wenner. And the club, they played League One. It's the second highest division in Sweden, in the Swedish league. And I'm very happy to be there.
So,
I think the game has brought people together. The globe is round, or let me say, it's a judge-shaped spherical, and so is the ball. Understand? And as the ball is turning, it brings everything together. Both black, both white, Chinese, India, Nigeria, Spanish. You can even see it in the World Cup. You can see it in the Olympic. You can see it in other games. Yeah, and this game actually, I call it the game of love. Yeah, because it reduces the level of crisis among people. Like when this game has not been established by humans, I think there are wars like gladiator wars. Like you see people gather and be watching wars, people killing themselves. But it's not so with the game. But the game is still playing in the same stadium, and people surround and people gather and watch the same game. But it's different from the game of the gladiators, because the game of the gladiators, people waste their life and it's a game of gamble. But the game is not so. The game is a game of love.
Philip Solomon represents an increasing number of delegates whose passion and dedication to succeed in life is their driving motivation. In one of our previous episodes, we went back in time to 2015 at the onset of the Buhari administration, where clearly defined targets were set for the reintegration component of the presidential amnesty program. Due to popular demand, we will bring you a repeat of the piece, which captures some of those moments and reaffirms government's position on the amnesty program. This is coming to you in our segment, Insight. The narratives and stories of Nigeria as a rising giant has never before sounded as convincing as they do now. Never before have the changes been so visible and apparent. And the people of this great nation, indeed the world's most populous black nation, have never before now passionately embraced the hope of better times, accentuated by responsive government. There is clearly no doubt that the tide has turned, and like millions in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria would say, these are indeed good times. This is the story of the Presidential Amnesty Program.
the change envisaged by President Muhammadu Buhari and currently being orchestrated by the coordinator of the program, Brigadier General Paul Buru.
My mandate essentially is to ensure that the amnesty program is successfully and efficiently seen through. Yes, and this program is based on disarmament, demobilization, rehabilitation, and reintegration. I want to make bold to say that the aspect of disarmament and demobilization, as well as rehabilitation, has been done. We are in the last phase, which has to do with reintegration, and this is the phase that we are pursuing right now.
In telling the story of the Niger Delta region, there is the distinct feeling that one is telling the very story of the fatherland. A story of struggles and strife, as well as the collective emergence of a people's will to succeed, even in the face of lurking shadows of doubt. Indeed, the proclamation of amnesty for former armed agitators in the Niger Delta region signaled the watershed and drove the change process. Incidentally, change is the mantra of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The president's vision for a great Nigeria envisages a fresh lease of life to key priority areas such as the development of the Niger Delta. The imperatives for this are all too clear. The Niger Delta region continues to provide the bulk of the country's revenue from oil exploration. Its continued relevance and role in the polity therefore makes the ultimate target of sustaining stability and development in the Delta even more necessary. The Presidential Amnesty Program remains a key component to drive that agenda. There are currently a total of 30,000 delegates captured in the program, most of whom are positively engaged in trainings with the capacity to turn them into model citizens. Human capacity development is at the core of the Presidential Amnesty Program and is the cornerstone of the reintegration component. At this critical phase of the program, the coordinator of the Presidential Amnesty Program, Brigadier General Paul Buru, has followed up with seemingly tall but clearly achievable targets. These targets all aim at ensuring the successful and sustainable reintegration of already trained delegates into civil society as productive members.
And in this phase, we have tried to carry out activities to strengthen the hearts and minds of the people, that's the ex-militants.
This becomes more feasible as the Presidential Amnesty Office begins to map out available opportunities, matching them with skills development within the program. Having laid that platform, Brigadier General Paul Buru began to invest in building relationships and structures to facilitate the rapid reintegration of already trained delegates. These efforts focus essentially on creating opportunities of job placements for these young Niger Delta youth in the public and private sectors.
I am bold to say that the Nigerian economy has risen drastically, increasingly since after this program started. So we must give credence to Mr. President for his support and continuity, sustainability of the program.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Talking Points on Reintegration 30,000. Our guest on this episode is a member of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, social commentator and renowned Ijaw activist. He was also a former security advisor to Rivers State government. His Highness Chief Anaps Saraigbe. So thank you for joining us on this program.
Thank you very much.
Sir, in your opinion, how clearly has the Presidential Amnesty Program tackled the issues of unrest and militancy in the Niger Delta? And what do you think would add more bite to ongoing efforts towards effectively ending unrest and related issues in the region?
Well, the amnesty program has brought in peace into the Niger Delta area. It's one of the good things the previous administration under Shehu Yaradua has done for the country, because this program has been able to bring together all the militants and train some of them and also empower some of them. Today, the amnesty program is refocusing the Niger Delta into agriculture. I think General Boro is taking the bull by the horn, which in the long run will ensure that the Niger Delta region will not only depend on oil and gas, but will also go into agriculture. That is a very good, welcome development, and the leaders of Niger Delta appreciate that fact, that Niger Delta will come back to its former glory, wherein we can compete with states like Lagos and others.
In the past, you have often spoken about the amnesty bill before the National Assembly. In fact, you're one of the outspoken proponents of this act. Why is that so?
Well, the amnesty program, as it stands today, is still a presidential proclamation. It ought to be an institution established by law or an act of the National Assembly. And it's important today because the amnesty program is only seen as amnesty program. It's a Niger Delta affairs and amnesty program. But today it is being treated as if the amnesty program is the only function of the organization. Besides, funding is the major issue affecting the program. If there is law backing it, the law will spell out its funding, and we will insist on those terms that the law has spelled. So the issue of no funding will be a thing of the past. I want to appeal to Nigerians to look at this amnesty program as the engine room of the national economy. Niger Delta being the power plant of the economy, if not well taken care of, if not well maintained, will disrupt the production of the Nigerian economy. Therefore, every Nigerian, it's imperative for every Nigerian to ensure that the law is passed and that amnesty is properly managed in accordance with the law, and we can have peace in that region, so that in the next few years that we can enjoy oil and gas, we can take advantage of our production.
The federal government has repeatedly affirmed commitment to developing the Niger Delta. What trust-building mechanism can be deployed by both sides? That is, government on one hand and the people on the other hand, in order to make progress?
Well, as PANDEV, we have been meeting with the federal government. And our last meeting, which was precisely on the 3rd of this month, the then acting president, Professor Osinbajo, assured us that government is ready to dialogue with us continuously with the view of developing the region. He also looked critically into the issue of ownership of oil block and the marginal field, which is one of the key factors that is causing problem in the Niger Delta. We think we should participate in the ownership of our oil production, and that is taking a favorable attention. And we are also setting up a presidential committee on Niger Delta, which I think, technical committee, which I think Pan-Niger Delta members will also be in that committee to fashion out how we can be able to develop the region. So I think so far so good. Government is thinking towards developing Niger Delta in tandem with the aspirations of the people of Niger Delta.
Sir, in your opinion, is amnesty succeeding?
Well, like I said, the amnesty program has been able to bring back peace into Nigeria, and particularly the Niger Delta, and it is also bringing back the people into agriculture and other areas. Today, our sons are skilled in several fields, courtesy of the amnesty program. We have pilots, we have doctors, we have engineers, first class. I think that is a good fit. And we're still going into farming. I know that the program has entered into a MOU with several farms to set up cluster farms and other farms for the region. If we can go back to our original occupation of fishing and farming, which was destroyed by the oil and gas production through amnesty program, I think it's a welcome development.
Sir, we may not have more time to speak on other issues on this episode. However, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. We will be seeing you again, hopefully, in the weeks ahead for more on happenings in the Niger Delta. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, but I appeal to federal government to fund amnesty as at when due. Don't fund them, don't staff them with fund, don't delay the release of fund, because if you release the fund early, it will put progress into the work of the amnesty, and that will bring succor and peace in the Niger Delta.
Chief Anaps Saraigbe is a member of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, social commentator and renowned Ijaw activist. Time now for our segment PAP in Recap.
The Presidential Amnesty Office is working on boosting proactive partnerships with media organizations in Nigeria towards the successful implementation of its reintegration program for trained former armed agitators. Special Advisor to the President on Niger Delta and Coordinator Presidential Amnesty Program, Brigadier General Paul Boro, has kick-started a media advocacy tour with a visit to the headquarters of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Abuja. General Boro described the NTA as a trusted and worthy partner and solicited for more cooperation in the implementation of its reintegration drive. The Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, who was represented by the Executive Director News, Malam Mohammed Labo, commended the Amnesty Office for successfully training thousands of youth from the Niger Delta and helping to sustain peace and stability in the region. He also reiterated NTA's social responsibility to assist groups, agencies and organizations that promote national unity and security. Meanwhile, the Presidential Aid and Amnesty Program boss was also at the Abuja headquarters of the News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. The visit is in continuation of the media advocacy tour on the reintegration campaign of the Presidential Amnesty Office. The Managing Director of NAN, Bayo Onanuga, who received a delegation from the Amnesty Office, commended the Amnesty Initiative and applauded the many successes emerging from the program.
I've seen that there's a reduction in tension in Niger Delta. And this was because of what we are trying to do and what we have been doing this past 2 years.
And lastly, but still on the media, the Special Advisor to the President on Niger Delta and Coordinator Presidential Amnesty Program, Brigadier General Paul Boro, was special guest of honor at the FCT Correspondents' Chapel 2017 Press Week, Gala and Award Night, which took place in Abuja. The get-together is an annual event of the body to honor friends of the media and deserving journalists who have made their mark and contributed immensely to the journalism profession and upliftment of the society through their reportage over the years. The head, Peacekeeping and Conflict Resolution, Freeman Mologi, who delivered a goodwill message on behalf of the Amnesty boss, commended and described the Nigerian press as a vibrant institution that has continued to take the lead in Africa. He then called on governments and agencies at all levels to look into the remuneration of Nigerian journalists, considering the risk they undertake in the course of their daily duties to keep citizens informed, educated, and even entertained.
This is where we end this episode of the program. I hope we have been able to educate you on some of the activities of the Presidential Amnesty Program and its impact not only on the delegates but across the Niger Delta and indeed Nigeria at large. Of course, it is important to note that the reintegration component of the Amnesty Program would ensure that former agitators apply just as much passion, if not more, to aiding Nigeria's rapid socioeconomic development. Thus, the commitment of the federal government to the successful implementation of the program. Do join us again same time next week for more on Reintegration 30,000 as we plan to bring you other aspects of the Presidential Amnesty Program. Also remember to visit our various social media platforms to make your contributions and comments. And like I say all the time, do remember that amnesty works. I am Stella Inameti.